All right. Hello? No dice. I don't have any sound. Can you hear me?
Very low.
Maybe it's just low.
Test, test.
Thank you for, okay.
I know.
Thank you for joining us for our school board meeting tonight. We're going to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming tonight. Do we have any needs for translation? It's on. Okay, can you hear me? I don't know, it's going in and out. Sorry, technical difficulties. Is your mic working? No, yours is funky too. Okay, do we have any need for translation?
Speak it up, sister.
I don't know. It feels like it's like going in and out.
You've been to enough of those
I'm
concerts.
just going to use my loud voice.
There you go.
Sorry. Do we have any need for translation tonight?
Little Taylor Swift.
No? Okay. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. At this time, we're going to move into our oath of office portion of the school board meeting. We have a new school board member joining us tonight, Bertie Fote, and myself and Aaron Gerber will also be taking our oath of office for our new terms.
Right up front here.
Again.
Come on up, Bertie. We'll do all of them together up here at the same time. Probably on this side over here. Tommy, which side works best for the camera? Right there. This is good? Okay. So this is an oath of office for a school board position, and have you all, why don't you line up just a little bit tighter? Right there, perfect. Right hand, and we'll go through it together. I state your name.
I, Lindsay Prowse,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the Organic Act and laws
and the Organic Act and laws
of the State of Washington,
of the State of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office of School District 147
the duties in the office of School District 147
according to law
according to law
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lindsay, sign in and make it official. All right. Well, we take a moment to recognize and honor our new school board members. I think it's also important, and this is a chance, Ken, if you'll come up for us to recognize and honor Ken Johnson. So give it up for Ken. Ken has been on our school board since 2018, and when I think of the name Johnson in Othello, I think of service. His family, they were some of the early pioneers in starting the community Christmas basket program that'll be happening on the 20th, feeding hundreds of families every Christmas for decades, and Ken still continues to organize that work. He continued to be active in civic engagement and giving back to the community by serving on the school board for as long as he has, and although he's leaving our board, he's now our new city mayor, and so Ken's moving on to more work and more support for the city. I want to thank him for all he's done for the students and staff here in Othello, and I hope that the board has some words to share with Ken before we send him on his way. So thank you, Ken.
Ken, I just want to start by saying how much I appreciate you and everything that you taught me. You have been a mentor to me. You've taught me how to be the school board president. You've taught me when it's appropriate to bite my tongue, when it's appropriate to stand up. You've given me courage to be myself and to own my actions. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you for everything that you have done for me and for the students in our school district. So thank you so much.
Ken was the school district president when I got on, and like Pete said, he's contributed a lot of service to the community. I've always really appreciated your leadership. I'm looking forward to your new position as well, so we can continue to strengthen relationships between the school and the city.
Yeah, they leave the best. I'm going to miss you. Thank you for everything that you've done for us, me and Aaron, as we came in at the same time. Thank you for everything you've done for the community. There's a lot more that you got planned, I imagine, and we're going to support you. Just remember that you're always got a home here at the school district, so thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. All right. Yeah, you want to grab that mic, Ken?
It's been a pleasure serving on this board. It was a really hard decision back in the spring whether to run for school board again, and then I was being approached for the position of mayor. I really wanted my school board position back, and it wasn't until the day before, final day of time to put my name on that ballot and that decision. But then I got to thinking about the relationships that we could work together between the city and the school district. We have a wonderful community. We have wonderful kids. And I'm just looking forward towards the working relationship that we can have together in the future. We got a lot of things we need to do in the future, and I think we could do it all working together. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ken. We'll see you at the city council meeting. Before we move on, I certainly want to move on to one other important piece of recognition. We try at each board meeting to recognize excellence in our school district, excellence from our students and excellence from our staff. And really excited tonight to have our principal from Wahitas Elementary, Justin Johnson, to share a story of excellence here with us today.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for having us tonight. I'm Justin Johnson, the principal at Wahitas Elementary. Is this? Yeah. Tonight we get to recognize our second grade team. So from the far end here, it's Ashley Garza. She's been at Wahitas for how long? a while. Faith Bold and Katrina Porter, sorry. They've also been with us for a few years. And so when we were asked to, each of us principals were asked to nominate someone or a team or a group of kids or an individual student for this recognition. And this is the first team that popped into my head. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, and hopefully the essence of them you'll understand by the time I'm done. But this team constantly is looking for ways to improve. I have to be really careful with what with both myself and Mr. McPartland, our assistant principal, what we give them or what we suggest to them, because if we know they're already busy, we can't give them one more thing, because they will do it. They will find a time, they'll get together. By the next morning, they'll tell me, oh, I woke up at 2 o'clock and I tried this and I worked on it, and now what do you think of this? And so I'm like, okay, we got to slow down a little bit, right? So they're constantly looking for ways to get better. Anytime we've been in their rooms for the last couple years, to be honest, you'll see any of the three of them up, moving. The kids are energetic because they follow their lead. They have extremely high expectations for all the students in their classes, and they get the results because of it. And it's not all about the data, but it's hard to really quantify the relationships that these three have with their students. But I think the numbers, what I look at, they really show that, for example, second grade and fluency are kind of things that go hand in hand. That's the big year to get them reading fluently and accurately, so that when they hit third grade, they're ready to roll. And coming back from the whole COVID time, we were at about 30% of our kids reading fluently and accurately. Last year, we were at around 45-ish, and this year, as of October, so 6 weeks ago, they were at 57%. So they've just seen these massive gains. We test again in a couple days, and they will be watching the spreadsheets, I'm sure, to see where their kids are at. They progress monitor every week, and so they can tell us, I'm sure if you asked them a student in their class, they could tell you exactly where they're at, what they're working on, and what the next step is for them. So those are the big things when it comes to students. But in our building alone, their leaders, none of them are real vocal. They're not going to be the ones out in front being the cheerleaders and really getting everybody rolling. But they are the ones that you look to, or we all look to, like, that's what it means to be a Wahitas Hawk. They're constantly, like I said earlier, looking for ways to get better. So to wrap it up, like I said at the beginning, when it came time to pick a team or an individual, this is the only team that I could think of to nominate, because they're just so good at what they do. And I wanted to make sure that they get recognized for it, because they, again, aren't going to be the ones out in front cheering and whatnot, but they're going to be the ones doing the hard work day in and day out. And they get to be out in our, what do you guys call them, the villas. So they're out in our villas, and they do what they can with what they have, and what they can do is some really good stuff. So I don't know, do you guys want to say anything? You don't have to. But we give them these. Yeah. So they're challenge coins from the district for you guys to have, and that's all we have for them. Any questions for them?
We like to get a picture with all of our people that we recognize. I know they're the second grade team. I'm saying, can we get a picture? Yep. Perfect.
Yes, no, we're actually, yes, thank you.
Thank you again, Wahitas Hawks. Appreciate all of your hard work. At this time, we're going to throw it over to our student reps and see what they have for us tonight.
Okay, there's a lot for the month of December for OHS. Okay, so starting with wrestling. Sorry. Okay, so wrestling did. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
So
feels funny when you're talking into it because it fades in and out for your ear, but
okay.
everyone can hear you.
Okay, so we want to recognize wrestling and basketball. They've been doing really, really good. Our boys have been like 2-0 so far, and we're playing them we're playing another team, Sageview, on December 9th. Tomorrow. And then for the staff meeting on Wednesday, it's at 2:30 p.m. at the OHS library. That's where they're going to cover a lot of, student presenters are going to be presenting future ideas at OHS. And I would like for the board to be there just so you guys can get a feel of like what the students are working on. And it's on Wednesday, December 10th at 2:30. HOSA is also doing a blood drive at OHS on Wednesday, December 17th. You have to be 16 and older to be able to donate blood. It's from 11:45 to 5:30. On December 6th, OHS had a winter carnival at Wahitas. It didn't do great, but leadership is working on doing another event that will help fundraise even more. We have Spirit Week at OHS. Starting from, I don't know the dates, but yeah. And then Cozy Field Day on the 19th, which is a different schedule for us, but that's also going to be presented on the staff meeting. We're also excited, proud of our drill team. On Saturday, they were recognized for being the best out of the small category. I think that's what it was called. And they got a check of some amount of money. I don't know. I just thought that was cool. And this month is full of community service. So I know a lot of students like me, like myself, I'm very excited to do community service for the month of December. So yeah, that's all the OHS stuff.
Great. Anybody have any questions? Okay. We're going to go into board member discussion, and we'll start with Director Gerber with legislative report.
So nothing major this week. The legislative session will start in about a month, so they are preparing for that. The legislative committees met this last week, kind of discussing some of the issues that are going to come up in legislative sessions, such as the CTE classes, early learning, the SCAP funds, school construction assistance program. So nothing major right now. We are preparing for the legislative session to start in January.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to discuss one of the classes that I went to at WASDA was about district-wide cell phone policy, and that was something that as a board we kind of wanted to dive into a little bit more. I know that Ferndale put on the presentation and talked about, when it comes from the district, then it carries a little more weight and it doesn't just fall on the principal of the school. They have somebody to fall back on and really get district-wide support. So we kind of wanted to talk about that as a board tonight and what our thoughts were around it. Included in the Ferndale presentation was not just a lack of cell phone use by students, but it also included the staff. And it took full buy-in literally from the top down. Everybody in the school had to buy into this limited cell phone policy.
So right now, each school has their own policy, correct? But we're saying it would be a district policy for everyone, the same for everyone. Okay.
Their policy looks a little bit different because they said they weren't having the issues with pre-K through sixth grade the same ways that they were having issues 7 through 12. Their elementary kids, most of them don't have cell phones, and they're respectful about not having them out. They were having more issues with an iWatch or an Apple Watch or some other contraption on the wrist that kids were sometimes playing games on. So they came up with policies for their K-6 students that just made more sense for the age demographic, and then a different policy for the 7 through 12. Do you have anything you want to add?
If we make a policy, we want the kids to adhere to it and follow it. I'd like to also somehow I think I had a conversation with Pete. I'd like to somehow get OEA involved because if we're going to make the kids follow a rule or whatever it is that we put in place, I'd also like to see that be extended to our staff, teachers, volunteers, everybody. If we're going to hold our kids to a certain standard, I want the staff as well. For too long, we've argued and said that, hey, kids are on their phones or kids are doing this, and during classes, well, we could also sit there and say that there's been teachers, EAs, coaches, that while they're supervising our kids or supposedly, giving out instruction, that they are also on their phone. And we need to make sure that everybody is on the same page and that the thing is completely fair for everybody, staff and kids. We can't sit there and expect to receive some type of thing or respect when we're not giving it ourselves. So.
One thing they said in the presentation, was that kids recognize when it's a do as I say, not as I do policy. And so when they got their staff to buy in and they got the adults to buy in, that it's not just I'm going to do it too. I'm going to match you in this, and I'm going to recognize that I also am addicted. I also am taking time, whether it's 15 seconds to check a text message or it's minutes scrolling while students are working on homework or whatever. It took buy-in from the admin, from the staff, from everybody to really make it work. I shared with Pete some QR codes that I'll share with the rest of the board that Ferndale did with the media that they put out, and then their policy that it included. And they had student representatives come and talk about the difference it's made in the student interaction, school spirit. I mean, a whole host of things that it has changed for them, both in mentally, as far as being social, but also how it's affected their grades, all for the better. And the students said, of course we didn't want this. We want our phones. But I have to admit, it's gotten way better. I actually have friends that I talk to in real life now. So anyway. Sorry, Bertie.
I was just going to ask Dr. Perez, what is the policy for staff right now, currently?
Yeah, so when we get concerns at the district office about staff cell phone use, the ones that have come to me over the last 5 years have almost always been about substitute teachers. Hey, the substitute was in class today. They were on their phone the whole time. Teacher, you see some head nods over there from our students. The teacher might leave lesson plans that says that the students are going to work independently. Just make sure the classroom is managed. And for some folks, that means as long as there's not any noise and they're compliant, I'm going to be on my phone. I know there have been periodic concerns raised about individual employees who maybe were using a phone at the time when they shouldn't have been, when they should have been working. And as we think about preparing our students for the world of work and what expectations might be outside of a regular classroom setting, if you have a job in any of the industries you work in, probably wouldn't be acceptable to be on your phone. What I think I'm hearing from Director Pruneda and from you, Director Prowse, is a call to go back and chat with OEA about some of these topics. I'll also include PSE. I certainly want to talk to our principals because at McFarland and the high school, they've actually done an excellent job of managing the student reaction and the parent reaction to the way cell phones have been implemented. So maybe there's some lessons to be learned there about what we do next, and maybe get together a work group to think about it. We do currently have a cell phone, a telecommunications policy. It was adopted in 2010, and this conversation and prompting to review that, I was prompted as I read it that it mentions pagers and beepers. So probably a time to reevaluate where we're at with our policy. And I think I get the gist of what you're communicating here. And so we'll get some folks together to process it.
I just want to go a little further. I guess I'm always the villain, but I'm old school. There needs to be consequences, just like there is for our students. There needs to be also for staff. As long as we get that somewhere in the verbiage there, I'll be okay. Till then, I'll fight that tooth and nail.
Yeah, and there are certainly, for any policy that we have, there's progressive discipline and things that we talk about. We have appreciated the partnership with OEA and PSC. Certainly the last couple of years, they've been very helpful in having difficult conversations when people might violate our policy. But that would certainly be part of the procedure that we would bring to you and say, okay, here's what we think makes sense for us, and something that we would ask the board to approve. But I really think it's going to be important to hear from the principals, because day to day, they'd be the ones enforcing that. You know, if we have a student comes forward and says, hey, Mr. Perez was on his phone during science class for the last 3 days, that doesn't feel right. You know, it's our principals that go knock on that door and say what's going on. So I really want to get them in the room to talk about the impact that it might have.
I had one more, Pete. Obviously, I've been absent for just a little bit, and I apologize. We've had some family issues, but could we get an update on how the OHS off campus, on campus, just to see how that's going? I'd like to keep tabs and just to see how they're doing, or if you know anything, if you could share.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have an update from OHS maybe after we come back from the Christmas break and get them back in here in January to share what they're doing. I was over there on Friday at around between the transition between first lunch and second lunch. I talked to Assistant Principal Tovar and to Assistant Principal Scott Swartz. They're saying that the parking lot is much more there's suitable driving happening out there. Kids aren't speeding back and forth because there's more supervision. I watched the kids exit out of the breezeway area there. Took 3 or 4 minutes, and kids were all out and able to move on to McDonald's or to El Hazmin or wherever they were going for lunch. It was about a balance for the juniors and seniors who were returning and the sophomores and freshmen who left. So the kids are in a rhythm of it. I'd be interested to hear from the students if they've noticed any impacts. I will say this, the tracking of the data and monitoring student attendance, tardies, behavior, and academics has made a difference. That you lose that privilege if you don't go. So from the administrator perspective, I think they're going to be very positive and they can share in more detail. But maybe it'd be helpful to hear from you two. I don't know if you leave for lunch or what you hear from your friends.
So I don't leave for lunch just because, you know, why am I going to spend money when there's free lunch at school? So
I like her food more.
So I usually just stay on campus. The problem is, though, like, you have to be, so I usually eat like in the library because the corridor gets so full of like kids like throwing their backpacks on the table, like saving it for their friends. So by the time I get there, there's no seats. But I always go to the library, but then by the time I get there, like, the doors are closed. No, Miss Dunn is like, no, don't go in. But like I don't know. She lets me in just, I don't know, because she knows me. But if it was other students, I don't think she would let them. But I feel like that's one of the main problems. If you don't get there, like, once the bell rings, you cannot enter like through the library, and I would have to go to the hub to be able to eat. I think that's just a problem I've noticed that gets kind of annoying. But I did notice like some of my friends who usually like don't do as well in school, like say like, oh, like I have to be at school because I don't want to lose my lunch privileges.
I don't go out for lunch either because there's free lunch at school, but I have seen some improvement of like kids who aren't doing that good in school. They do come back to school just because they also say like, oh, I want to stay because I don't want to lose my lunch privilege also. So yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit later. Thank you for sharing those experiences that you're having. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit later in superintendent informational items about some of the furniture adjustments we're making and investment we're making there to improve the student experience. I think you two might have been part of helping design and select that stuff. So the principals are hearing the feedback, and we'll share with the board where we're moving with that. But I'll get them here in January.
Yeah, and same thing, Pete, just a heads up when we do that one about them being excused for lunch and coming back. Also the sports deal where they're in the green, yellow, and red, if we could get an update on that deal, because it seems like it's been working out very well.
Okay, we're going to next talk about our annual recognition. Our voting scheduled is for December 17th at our board meeting. So that will be our next board meeting where we'll decide on board positions. And then looks like SEWASA. I don't know what that is, but it's an annual board workshop scheduled for Thursday, January 16th at 4 p.m.
Yeah, there's southeastern WASA. So we've attended a couple of WASA events as a board. They have these series of regional meetings across the state of Washington. This one is in Pasco, I believe, at the ESD. I attended maybe 3 or 4 years ago with Ken. I've only been once. We wanted you to be aware of it, especially new board members. If we wanted to attend as a group or if there was an interest in attending, we wanted it to be on your calendars and Marisa can begin to make preparations. So I won't go unless at least one board member wants to go. So if you want to reach out and set that up, we'll put that together. But it's a chance to hear from WASA, and sometimes WASDA has a presence, and they'll talk about statewide initiatives and what's happening. Probably some about the LEDGE conference. That's about that time and what they're hearing. But you'll also get to interact with board members like at WASDA, but just from Southeast Washington.
Well, I can go. Looking at my calendar, I can make that happen.
And I missed out on the one earlier, so I'd like to make this one.
If the others of you need more time, we can certainly reach out over the next few weeks to Marisa.
Oh. I'm like, what's next, guys? Sorry. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve required approvals.
I'll make a motion to approve the required approvals.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. I'll accept a motion to approve accounts payable warrants 2.
I'll make the motion to approve accounts payable warrants too.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-1 with 1 abstention. I said that wrong. 3-0 with 1 abstention. Sorry. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve Resolution 26-002, Replacement Educational Programs and Operation Levy.
Yeah. I'll make the motion to approve the levy resolution.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. And this I have to do a roll call for. So this feels weird, but Director Gerber, is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Director Fote?
Yes.
Director Pernetta?
Yes.
Director Prowse? Yes. Motion passes 4-0. I will also accept a motion for approval for the appointment for the for and against committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the for and against committee form.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. I'm getting worse by the meeting. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, now it's time for our superintendent informational items. We'll give it over to Dr. Perez.
Yeah, we were waiting to give you the feedback during the plus deltas, but we'll save it for that. Regarding our conversation just a moment ago about the lunchroom experience and Director Pernetta's call for some feedback around that, which we certainly will provide, but also the student reps sharing their experience. This is a look at some of the more functional furniture we're going to purchase. We are going to be able to add, I believe it was approaching 60 to 80 seats additional with the transition to this model. These tables are much more modern than what's in that facility right now. They're lighter for our staff to move around. And then there's also this bench seating that kind of has that, and I think they called some of it bistro seating, that has kind of that more casual feel. So we'll be able to accommodate a few more students. It'll also be in the school colors, which are more appropriate. And I think just have a good feel for the lunch experience. And you two might have been part of selecting the furniture, and that we want to talk about that process a little bit for the board.
Okay, so we decided to have, so we decided to have, like how you guys see like in the second picture, like the booth style, just because
we had a kid named Elliot. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but because he's like, tall, he was worried that he wouldn't fit like on the tables that like you see at the bottom, like the round ones. And so we made it like for it to fit everyone and not just, like normal people. I don't know. Sorry.
You hit a soft spot for me. Thank you.
But yeah. Do you want to talk a little more?
But yeah, so we did get inspired by Sunnyside because when we were designing the tables, the guy, he brought a table from Sunnyside and it had like their logo on the table. So we got inspired by that and we're like, well, let's put a Husky on our table. So we put our Husky logo on there with the right color of red. And we did, we liked the booth idea, so all the students did approve of putting the booths on that little area over there. And yeah, we just all came to agreement very well about the design.
We also thought about like wheelchair accessibility, so it's not just like for us, but it's also for like the students who are on wheelchairs and like who can't like sit down on the tables.
And this is going to be beneficial because in the wintertime, like it's going to be snowing, it's going to be cold, so students are more inside, and this does add more room for students to be able to sit during lunch.
Yeah. In the middle tables, you can also pick those up like during breakfast, and they will be moved out of the way so that students don't have to like push the tables to get to like the breakfast line. So yeah, that's something good.
I have a question, Pete, just because I have sat on the other side of that janitorial side. How hard is it to put those tables away? And I'm not talking about the ones that fold up in the middle. I'm talking about the booths or the tables with chairs. Or are those going to stay set?
Yeah, I think some of I believe that our administrators included the custodial staff in these conversations. I don't have the expertise around that. I would assume some of those are going to be stationary. What I do believe about these is they're much lighter than the current stuff that we have, and so those chairs are very difficult to move. Once you stack 2 or 3, you're done moving them. So we're hoping there'll be a nice balance there. But I do believe that as much as they could, there was some influence and feedback from our custodial staff.
Yeah, that was my concern when we were doing the tour and just looking at the chairs that we currently have and the heaviness and just my background and how they can be used as a weapon. And so I look at safety, girls, and want to know exactly what the weight of those chairs are and what kind of damage they might do if one was thrown, or can they be easily thrown, or is it going to take some effort in that? I would just like to have that conversation. And is there only 4 or is there more? So this is
I can give the specs on those pieces, and also maybe a comparison to what we currently have.
Yeah,
and provide
those
that information.
That we currently have are heavy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how long we've had that furniture at the high school, and
it has to be. I mean, I've been at a high school for almost 25 years, and that furniture was there when I was there.
It certainly held up. You wouldn't know if it was purchased yesterday or 25 years ago.
I think the furniture was put in when we were in high school and the remodel went through.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to say how long I've been out.
Yeah. Well, I hope you weren't the one who picked maroon for our color, but
No.
it was on sale.
No.
So, anyway, nice job to our students for designing it, and for our principals, Principal Kat Atchison, for taking the student feedback, involving them in the process, letting them have voice and trying to solve a problem that we're having at the school. I think that was excellent leadership on her part to organize and put that together.
Pete, if I would go back to the manufacturer, if they lasted for 20-some odd years, I'd like to have that company make them again.
Yeah. Well, when we put them on surplus, you're all welcome to buy them for your family gatherings, and you can take 25 home. All right, next item. I'm really excited to. We had some really meaningful recognition today for our second grade team, and oftentimes those K2 people, they don't have the sort of big scale assessments that we do in our school district, in our state, and in our country, but they're leading up to all this work that happens 3 through 6, and then in our middle school in 7 and 8, and then on to the high school. So we've invited Justin Johnson here tonight to share some data with you, and it's from a celebration perspective, and there's going to be some deep information here, and I'm looking forward to the questions and interactions with all of you. On the next slide here, There we go. So you're going to hear us talk about alignment. We've been talking about this idea of our schools, particularly our elementary schools, coming together and working together, setting themselves up for the middle school. And I think the transition at McFarland Middle School with Will Von Brocht as the principal, bringing his expertise and experience from the elementary setting, and how the middle school begins to be woven into these initiatives that are doing really well at our elementary schools. And we're going to celebrate that with you tonight. We're going to show you some exciting things. And the reason I think it's important to do that, if you go to the next slide, is it's really easy in America to read these kinds of headlines that education is crumbling, test scores show schools fall further behind, the scary truth about how far behind our kids are. Both the left and the right politically are failing our kids. Half of Americans say public education is going the wrong way. The news is not good. These are all headlines from the last few weeks. And you see them all the time. And when you're an educator and you spend your life doing this work, it doesn't feel good to read that stuff. Another reason it doesn't feel good is so much of it is just not accurate. It's just not true. Our kids are learning at higher levels than I think they ever have in schools in our country, despite the narrative that's out there. And we're going to share with you tonight some exciting work that's happening in Othello to challenge these ideas and these concepts. And I think it's especially important when you're asking communities to consider levies like you approved tonight and bonds like we'll be considering in the next few years to invest in a system that they think is failing our children. And if this is the narrative out there, we have to provide the counter narrative to it. And we have a really cool story to tell in Othello. And so one of the things that you should also, we're going to talk about Othello, but we're also going to talk about the state of Washington. And I think something else we should be proud of, we have moments when we're not happy with Olympia and some of the decisions they've made, whether it's about schools or other activities in our lives. But U.S. News and World Report puts out the state rankings by state every year. Washington's in the top 10. All 50 states in our nation, we're top 10 according to them. The other one on the right is a public schools ranking that's probably the second most widely accepted one. This one considers school safety and investment along with student performance. And in that ranking, Washington is 4th. So again, highly positioned. We're one of the most productive and I think return on investment states in our country. We do excellent work in our state and we do excellent work here in Othello. And Justin's going to talk about some of that excellent work. So I just wanted to set the context for you that we as educational leaders, and I include all the board members in that, have a responsibility to let our community know how well our principals and our teachers and ultimately our kids are doing every day when they come to our schools.
Yeah, so you've probably heard this quote before. I didn't attribute the quote to the man who said it, but without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And so really digging into the data and understanding the story that the data can tell is incredibly important because like Pete said, there's a lot of opinions out there that education is failing all of our kids and this, that, and the other, or on the other side of it, that there's certain school districts that are just phenomenal, right? But do we really know, are they really, or are we just going off what we heard, right? And so it's really, really important to have the information to make our own decisions from and making sure that the data that we have is accurate. So again, we can make our own decisions based on that and then know if we are going the right direction, if we're not, and if we're not, what are we going to do about it, right? So with that said, I hate to bring notes, but I wanted to make sure I explained this correctly. So this project started a couple years ago for myself, and Pete was asking some questions, and so the state used to put out, the OSPI report card used to put out a filter that you could go on and say, show me the schools that only have 50% ELL or only have 50% low income, and it would show you those. How did they do? Now rank them for me. Show me only the schools that have K-6 students, and you could do all that on the website. That went away, right? But now the state just sends out a data sheet, or it's a spreadsheet that has all the schools' information on it. And I'm not joking to you when I say it's over 700,000 lines long, right? So it's a lot of information because it says Wahida's third grade girls, here's how they did. Wahida's third grade boys, here's how they did. Wahida's third grade ELL girls, here's how they did. For every school in the state, right? So to try to look at this sheet is can get kind of overwhelming. So trying to take all that information and pare it down to what do we actually need? What do we need? And so took that, pared it way down. But it's important to talk about creating a fair comparison between schools, because as you know, our schools here in Othello might look a little different than the schools in Bellevue, might look a little different than the schools in downtown Seattle, might look a little different than the schools down in Tri-Cities. And so how do you truly compare schools without just looking at the one score for ELA, the one score for math? It's important that we look at that. That's how many kids actually were proficient. But is that truly telling us giving us the whole picture of that school? So dug in a little deeper and said, what can we do? What are some statistical analysis? What are some formulas we can use to actually find out which schools are performing above expectations and vice versa, below expectations? And so imagine a chart. There's over 1,000 elementary schools in the state of Washington, and right now we're just going to talk about elementary. So the chart has all 1,000+ elementary schools as a dot on it. Each dot has three different values. How the school actually did when you take their ELL and math and average it, so it's their academic index. How did the school do? How many ELL students, what percentage are there, and what percentage of low income. So each dot has three different values attached to it. So then you ask yourself, well, okay, so you have all these schools plotted on a chart, but what can it tell me? What could we say is typical for a school to score? So here's where we're really lucky that we have technology these days. So you can create a formula in Google Sheets that you can give it all 1,000 schools what they actually scored, all 1,000 schools what their ELL population is and what their low income population is. And the machine does its magic. It does all the sorting behind the scenes to try to create a formula to make all the schools fall on the trend line. Okay, so you might be saying, great, what does that mean? So here is that chart. Here's 1,000 schools charted, and the computer creates a trend line. Over here is the impact index. This is the percent of students that are ELL and low income together, the average of those. So how impacted is your student body? You'll notice that the higher the impact of the student body, the lower the test scores traditionally are. Down here is the average of ELA and math. So the lower impact has higher achievement scores, right? You probably could have guessed that before I even said it. But the big thing here is the computer creates a trend line. This is what the typical, if everybody was average, what would happen? Okay.
So before we leave that, I have a question for the board. It's called the trend line. What's the trend? What is it saying about if you have a high number of ELL or low-income students in your school district?
You have lower academic proficiency.
That's what the trend says, just based on the data that the state puts out, right? That's what you could predict. Justin talked about that predictive value. So that's exactly it. What's the trend? Well, it trends this way.
Yep. So take the schools out. These are actually the 1,000 schools plotted. Take them out. Here's what the trend line looks like. That's just the trend line. So that's what the computer uses to say a typical school with 50% impact would be about, whatever that would be, like 30%-ish, right? But remember, each dot has three values. What it actually scored, the ELL population, and the low-income population. So to manipulate each dot, you're not just moving one piece of data, you're moving multiple pieces. So it's not as easy as just move everybody to the line and call it good. That's what your expectation is. So the sheets can help, or Google Sheets can help us run and find coefficients, which are values that we can multiply times your ELL population, times your low income population, and tell us what should that school be performing, right? So it behind the scenes runs over and over and over again until it finds as little error as possible with each school to give us those numbers to say, okay, now input these for each school, and this will give you a predicted what the school should perform based on their demographics and the statewide trend, what the state has actually produced with 1,000 schools. It's like creating a recipe. A little bit of this, a little bit of this to get it as even as you possibly can. So again, this is what it would look like if we create that formula and give every school a new value. Not what they actually scored, but what they should score using this new value, right? So somewhere in here are 4 elementaries in the state of Washington, or in Othello School District. We would be in here somewhere. It's very close to the average, right? So you can say, here's what is predicted from each school. If you have very low impact, you should be very high in academic achievement because that's what is shown in our state. That's what the average is. And so we create that formula and get a new value for each student. Am I explaining that close enough?
Yeah. So
okay.
I'll use another example for the board when I think about early learning in our community. If you live in a community where 70% of the kindergartners come in ready for kinder, and then in 3rd grade, 70% are reading at grade level, how much change is that? It's none at all, right? You would have predicted that by 3rd grade, those kids are going to be reading on grade level, and that's what you would predict. In Othello, when you say, well, 30% of our kids are ready for kinder when they arrive, but 60 are ready at grade level in 3rd grade reading, it's a 30-point gain, right? But someone on the outside might write a headline that says, this school district had 70% of kids at standard and beat Othello by 10%, never acknowledging the hard work of the teachers and the students and the principals who went from 30 to 60, and honoring and recognizing the group that started at 70 and finished at 70. That's what these lines and these ways to look at the data to provide that counter narrative why they're so important.
Why did the state take away that?
When I called and asked, the person that did it moved away or doesn't work for OSPI anymore. So they didn't find anybody to replace that. So that just never happened. That was their explanation to me. So it was somebody with OSPI that did all the work that put it on there, and then they no longer work for OSPI, so it doesn't happen anymore. So we did it ourselves.
I called them and they said it was Donald Trump, but that's just what the person said.
He does all the things.
It just fathoms how OSPI just gave up on the deal. I mean, it's what it sounds like.
I don't know if I'd say those exact words, but they don't produce that information anymore. Yeah. So I don't want to throw one. I don't want to.
I know you don't want to throw anybody on the bus, but it's good information for.
Yeah.
I mean, any way to get a letter.
So let me continue because you'll probably like what's coming next.
No one cares about a letter from
Okay.
you, Zorro.
So each school now has 2 numbers.
Love my money.
They have an expected score and they have their actual score, right? So to find out who's outperforming, you're going to find the difference of those 2 scores. If your actual score is higher than your predicted score, you're outperforming expectations, right? If it's lower, you're underperforming expectations. So we take those 2 scores for each school, Wahitas, Hiawatha, Lutakaga, and Scootney, and we said, well, how did they actually perform? Take away their, minus their expectation, and what was it, positive or negative? So here's what we found. So here's our 4 schools. The residual is what you want to look at. That is the difference between expected and actual. So let's just take Hiawatha, for example, here. You see their ELL and their low income. That formula that we created through looking at all the data expects Hiawatha to be at about 22% academic. If they were a typical Washington State school, they'd be at about 22%. What were they at? About 32. So they outperformed their expectation by 10%. Lutakaga, about 7. Scootney, about 9. And Wahitas, about 22. So all 4 of our schools in elementary outperformed what we expected, or what was expected based on this formula that was created, right?
So I have a question.
Yes.
So the 2 schools that had a lower percentage, can we expect that there is a low or higher income of children, families in
So
those schools?
you can see each low income for each school. We're pretty similar. All 4 elementaries have about the same low income percent and about the same English
ELL.
language learner or multilingual learner percent. We're pretty darn close.
Okay.
Yep. But there is variance in this, which causes variance in the expectation. Right? Okay. So we don't want to say these are rock solid, like this is the number to look at, because the actual performance does matter. How many kids we actually had at standard does matter. So you don't want to just throw that number out and say, we're only going to look at this number. But this number tells us a big story, like can really tell us a story about how our schools are doing. All right. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so you're going to see some quadrants coming up here in just a moment, and they're going to be, Justin's going to talk to you about where our particular schools fall. But when I described a lucky school, think about 70% coming in at standard, 70% leaving at standard, right? You got high results, but you really don't know why. The kids just showed up and they did okay, right? A leading school might have 70% of kids coming in at standard and then 95 leave at standard. They have high results and a high understanding of what it took to get that next group of 25 students to standard. And then if your kids are not doing well and you're not making any effort and you have no idea what's happening in your school, that's the losing zone. We want to live in learning or leading. Sometimes it feels good to be lucky, and that's what might catch a headline, but you want to be leading and learning because then you know what to do next when you get that next group of students or when they move on to the next grade level. And so Justin's going to talk about some of the quadrants and where our schools are going to end up.
So we would hope that our schools fall above this line, first of all. And you can see the schools based on their school colors. This axis is the prediction. How far above prediction did they end, or how far below? So any of these schools above here outperformed their prediction. They outperformed what was expected of them. You'll notice that all 4 of our schools are in that category, which is where we want to be. This right here is the state average for academic performance, which is at about 47.7, and we're moving towards that. So once we get over this line, we would be actually outperforming the state and outperforming what's expected of our schools, which we're moving towards, right? So this is where we want to live. And I think the key is to really recognize that all 4 of our schools are above that line, which is pretty cool. You'll see even hear more in a second. Keep going.
Yeah, I think this can feel like heavy and data-driven and academic. The way that it plays out in our region, I think, is really exciting. And so our teachers and our kids and our families should be really proud of what you're going to see next.
Okay, so this is all,
and the board as well.
This is all 1,000 schools, replotted based on the difference between their expectation and how they actually did. All right, so we have regional peers, right? There's 51 elementary schools in Grant, Adams, and Franklin County. Here in a second, you're actually going to see the names, but there's 51 schools within our region, all right? Each one of them has a residual score, and when I say residual, that's the difference between the expectation and the how they actually did, the difference between those two. So you want to be positive. You want to be outperforming your expectations. So of the 51, about 25, about half, almost exactly half, outperformed the expectations, and about half underperformed, which is statistically right on. Okay, where would you want our schools to be?
The top.
The top. There's our 4 schools. 4 of the top 6 elementary schools in our region are here in Othello, right? So that's pretty darn cool. I geeked out over the weekend. I was fixing this, and I triple checked my formula because I'm like, I got to make sure this is right before we take it in front of the board. And I did have one mistake, and so I fixed it, and I'm like, oh crap, is it going to change the story? And it actually rose us even farther to the top than I thought. And so I was texting Pete, I'm like, you got to let me know when you're available to look at this, because that was pretty cool, I thought. And again, this is all the 51 schools in our region. So just to end it off, state-wise, Wahitas is 8th out of the 1,042, Hiawatha is 124, Scootney is 157, and Lutakaga is 220. Visually, what that looks like is if this was all the schools, we're in the top quadrant for all schools in the state of Washington, elementary schools for the state of Washington, in outperforming expectations. This is number 1 all the way down to over 1,000. So a lot to be really, really proud of in our schools, and I'm excited because we've learned a ton in the last few years, and we know how we can get even closer to that top, all 4 of us. So any questions, comments, concerns?
Thanks for taking the time to put all that together.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a lot of work.
I'm blown away. I think that's incredible. Like, that makes me smile so big. Way to go. And also, I've never felt stupider than while you were talking. Like, what? Like, trying to put together in my brain all of the things you were flying through. Like, I don't know, I can't even begin to figure out how you figured out how to do this, but it's incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Also, can I screenshot that? Because I have siblings who live in Moses Lake that I have to rub this into.
You should have access to it. So
If I can.
Thank you for geeking out.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. This actually makes it really good to see that our schools are going in the right direction. There for a little while, it felt like it wasn't, and it seems like the more they put on you guys, the more you guys rise to the occasion, and we're thankful. And so, just super happy, super proud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only thing I will add is a great first night for me. Because, I mean, as a new director, I want nothing more than student success. And to see this is a really special night. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's important, too, to think all the way back to the beginning when Pete showed. So Washington's already at the top, or not at the top, but very close to the top in the entire country. And then you think of the elementary schools within our state, we're towards the top of those. So what does that say? You know, we can make some predictions. We couldn't exactly say that that puts us towards the top, but you can make some inferences based on that information. That's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just, as you think about the complexity of putting this kind of work together and maybe simplify it from like a realtor's perspective, or someone said to me, the doctors and the police officers and the schools are always better in the next town over, right? That we always think that about us. And so I think it's so important that when we do reflect on our own work and we hear those narratives about failing schools in our country, that we don't contribute to that, because that doesn't happen without a lot of hard work by a lot of people, including our kids and our families and our teachers every single day. Because to come in kindergarten, did you know English when you came into kinder? No. So a kid who comes in not knowing any English, tell me your schedule this trimester at the high school.
My schedule? Okay, so I'll tell you my past, but I don't remember my current ones.
Okay.
Okay, so I had CHEP school, Big Band English, leadership, EW leadership, and then what was my other one? Oh, pre-calc or something like that.
So, again, a student coming into a community, not knowing English, trying to get to grade level by third grade so that she can take calculus in high school, she can take college level courses in the high school to develop this nest egg of college credits. Has anyone in your family gone to college?
No.
So she can see herself at a university, and she could graduate and contribute to our economy and our community. That's what public schools in America are about, and we don't tell that story enough. We don't, and so when we saw the data come out the way that it did, it was super exciting. So I hope you hear Justin's passion, and for our principals, I think it's the first time of them seeing it in this format, and I hope they're nodding and go back and share with their staffs. And I think it's also important when you think about this from an investment perspective, when we share information about our levy, about what it pays for, we also share the return on investment that our community is getting compared to your brother in Moses Lake.
And if you have any questions, like there was a lot of information thrown at you, if there's other specific questions about it or you want to talk more about it or the formulas, I'm more than happy to if people ask, because that's some pretty big claims that we just made. I'm fully aware that people might say, what are you talking about? But we can talk about how we did it and how we understand what those numbers mean. And then the next part is, now what are we going to do about it to try to keep moving? So thank you.
I may need some talking points.
I was going to say, data for dummies, please.
That's right.
I don't want to leave out Will because he was at Hiawatha. He had something to do with it.
Yep.
So shout out. Nice to see you in a McFarland shirt there, bud. We're expecting numbers like that. Don't.
Yeah. The middle school's next. Just kidding.
There's actually, we intended specifically in my conversations with Justin to make this a K-6 presentation, but he's already done some initial work around the middle school that's almost as exciting. So maybe at another point we'll be able to come back and share that a little bit.
That's great. Is that everything, Dr. Perez? Okay. We will move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight? No? Okay. Upcoming events. We have our next board meeting on December 17th at 12 p.m. And then on December 22nd through January 2nd, that will be our winter break. We also have a board Christmas party. Aaron, can you remind me of the date? Next Monday.
Today, yeah.
Next Monday. At what time?
I think we said 6:30. I'll let you know.
Okay. Next Monday, 6:30. Now we'll move on to the board self-assessment of the meeting.
Welcome, Director Foat, to your first meeting. Happy to have you.
Very happy to have you. Appreciate the recognition from Wauketas for doing great work with their second grade team. And then also the presentation tonight from Justin for all of our elementary schools was outstanding.
Not to piggyback off of you, thank you, Justin, because it's been one of those ones that had a lot of information, and you dummied it down and made it to where we understood it a little better, and I greatly appreciate that. Very sad to see Ken leave. Hope he does great things in his new role.
Agreed.
It was nice to hear that the sports in wrestling and basketball and drill team are all getting good recognition to start off the season. And thank you for the invite to the upcoming meeting.
I would give thanks to Dr. Perez for giving that explanation or that perspective, because I didn't think about it that way. And I'm very grateful to be, like a part of this district. And I'm very grateful for Ms. Mirich and Mr. Mirich. I'm very grateful that you showed me, made me write the definitions of these big words and fill up your whole wall in your classroom, because now I know a lot of words. And thanks to you, I'm in Big Bend English.
And I speak, I think, for the board that we're very appreciative of you coming on. You've shined. You guys have both shined, but it's amazing to see where you've come from when you first started, and it must have not been easy. So thank you for all the hard work that you put in.
I think just one on the Delta side, we apologize for the audio issues. I think we've had some folks from out of the district in trying to service them and prepare them, just tweaking them just a little bit. So I apologize for that. We'll make sure it's corrected next time we meet.
Great. Okay, at this time, the board will recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss the sale or lease of land. No action will be taken following the executive session. This meeting is adjourned.